Travis Wayne Goodson. 18 USC 1111. 4 ones. Murder. A. Murder is the unlawful killing of a human being with malice aforethought. Every murder perpetrated by poison, lying in wait, or any other kind of willful, deliberate, malicious, and premeditated killing, or committed in the perpetration of, or attempt to perpetrate, any arson, escape, murder, kidnapping, treason, espionage, sabotage, aggravated sexual abuse, or sexual abuse, child abuse, burglary, or robbery, or perpetrated as part of a pattern of or practice of assault or torture against a child or children, or perpetrated from a premeditated design, unlawfully and maliciously to effect the death of any human being other than him whom is killed, is murder in the first degree. Here's a reading of the update to Judge Waddups. The plaintiff being aware of 34 documents lodged, the plaintiff herein gives an update to Your Honor. The plaintiff reached out to the property management to again remind them of this complaint and of their being listed as co-conspirators, and of their previous eviction notice presented to the plaintiff on Friday the 13th, March 2020, which had been submitted to the court on multiple occasions. As of this email, Danville Development is refusing to drop the eviction notice and responded by mailing a certified letter arriving by postal service this morning with a second copy of such eviction notice. Also, my compelled payee service has not responded to my request to inform me of the status of my rent check, which I can only assume that my rent still has not been cashed by Danville for the month of August. The plaintiff intends to challenge the eviction notice in the expected upcoming hearing if Your Honor still has not made a final decision yet. Every day there is no final verdict is another day the plaintiff lives in fear for his life and safety in what has been a hostile living environment, as the plaintiff is not rich enough to just leave and get a new place to live. Samantha Hansen, the listed co-conspirator and plaintiff's property manager, made mention of not only hearsay events from Friday the 13th, March 2020, but threw in other matters and events discussed in the plaintiff's complaint. As the plaintiff will not have an opportunity to go to trial to present his case and the evidence, there are few items Your Honor needs to be aware of. 1. Samantha refers to Percy as a landlord employee. This is not correct, as Percy works for and is paid by Valley Behavioral Health, not Danville Development, nor from the plaintiff. And his plaintiff's rent payments have always gone to Danville. 2. The plaintiff's residence is what is known as independent living, rather than assisted living, which is why the plaintiff has lived at the filed address for the past 5 years, going on 6. What Samantha is implying is that the plaintiff is not only a client of Valley Behavioral Health, but that his residence has been changed to assisted living, and thus the plaintiff has been dropped in status to needing assistance rather than being independent. The plaintiff's complaint involves Valley Behavioral Health altering the plaintiff's medical records to show a second time, 3 years later, that he was officially released as a client of Valley Behavioral Health, which still dismisses Samantha's claim that the plaintiff is a client of Percy's, i.e., Valley Behavioral Health. The plaintiff discusses the origins of medical fraud and the defendant's paying Dr. Cohn for her loyalty to keep the plaintiff from having due process in a trial and justify removing him from society to be tortured with human experimentations for 6 years of his life. Oops, I numbered them wrong. Should be 4. That's what I get for not doing a reading before I click send. 4. The plaintiff was dismissed from civil commitment back in 2015, and his therapist dropped him in 2014, and the plaintiff ceased to being a client of Valley Behavioral Health in November 2016. Notice the time in the past? So 4-5. Samantha's claim that the plaintiff is engaged in harassing and unlawful activity is a false conclusion, therefore, as Percy has no authority over the plaintiff to assist him, let alone make contact. Thus, Samantha is exposing a transposition of crimes to blame the plaintiff rather than the unauthorized Percy and every other Valley Behavioral Health employee mentioned in the complaint. 6. Samantha keeps bringing up that her cause is based upon her belief, most of which is hearsay, rather than any of the evidence offered by the plaintiff and witnesses for the plaintiff's behalf. 7. Samantha claims that the plaintiff therefore demonstrates a material non-compliance, since the plaintiff does not have a single violation on his record during the over 5 years of residency until Friday the 13th of March 2020. Notice how I'm emphasizing that date and putting Friday with it? The plaintiff can only assume that the pattern of inability or unwillingness to resolve noncompliance, I defined material noncompliance for him, as I'm sure he knows, but letting him know I know, of the plaintiff refers to the plaintiff seeking his First Amendment rights to redress grievances on a regular basis whenever the plaintiff was threatened by a Valley Behavioral Health employee of whom the plaintiff is not a client of. Refusal of protections services to act on a complaint does not lead to the conclusion that the petitioner is automatically wrong in filing a petition. That's the strategy of the defense counselors to always submit a motion to dismiss for not stating a claim upon which relief may be granted. If you're familiar with the other complaints readings that I've been doing, you'll understand why I put that in there. It can only be concluded that Samantha is co-conspiracy with Percy has been ordered through the defendant to attempt retaliation before a resolution in this case. It appears that the plaintiff did not mention the CEO of the defendant a week after the plaintiff submitted 33 objection, changed the temple covenants a second time during his tenure. Below is his statement with the web link. So newsroom.churchofjesuschrist.org. Article first-presidency-temple-message-July-2020. And it was the 20th of July. And so, I'll read it for you. The sacred teachings, promises, and ceremonies of the temple are of ancient Maybe I shouldn't read this. He's considering Brigham Young as ancient origin, because it ain't ancient origin, so he's talking about Brigham Young, he's calling it ancient. And I can't, I'm not going to be able to read it. Sorry. I can't. It makes me laugh. Uncontrollably. plaintiff is amused, to say the least, with the statement, "We ask our members and friends not to engage in speculation or public discussion of these changes." As the plaintiff, who is the only one who knew and recognized and thus added it to this case, for which the defendant is demonstrating guilt and expressing frustration for getting caught. The CEO has also resumed phased reopening of the defendant's religious and secular operations, in accordance with the previous submitted indictment of extortion threat to all government leaders. Utah Governor Herbert still to this day claims Utah is yellow and green, which I pointed out, I'm supposed to put the plaintiff, is the worst and most adverse way to handle a virus pandemic. That's where I went over the pictures of simultaneous, where everybody in the whole nation and every single state shuts down at the same time. Everybody goes home, stays home until the all clear is sounded. That's simultaneous. If everybody is compliant, that's the results from that chart of what will happen. If we're doing what we're doing, but we don't do what we say we're doing, which is what we're doing, that's sequential. It's where Herbert has some places of the state yellow, some places green, and I think Salt Lake City is orange. When technically we're red, but nonetheless, that's what Herbert has been doing. He's been doing it sequentially, allowing a phased reopening and handling only the outbreaks. And so, because he's not shutting down sequentially either, he reopened sequentially, it's going to go for an indefinite period of time. It doesn't matter if people are wearing masks. We were at 11% today for our testing numbers. And that's with his order to wear masks, his order, for at least for government employees, such as the bus workers, and stores are demanding it, and Nelson even said, "I order all Mormons to wear masks," despite the LDS Moms Against Masks, who rose up just before he made his announcement through a 70. But masks alone will not stop the virus. It may slow it down, but it's not showing it yet here in Utah. And I saw everybody wearing masks today when I went out shopping. Everybody this time was wearing masks. Yet still 11%. People are not wanting to stay home, stay safe, because nobody is telling them to. We need to shut down. We need to start over, because technically we're in the red. Alright, so Utah Governor Herbert still to this day claims Utah is yellow and green, which the plaintiff pointed out is the worst and most adverse way to handling a virus pandemic. As Samantha posts signs on the plaintiff's building that West Valley City is orange, whereas the White House still lists Utah in the red, now with 21 total states. It was 18 when I last commented on that in the court. Health officials across the nation are pleading with the governments to again shut down and start over, as a vaccine is still a year away despite fraudulent claims to misinform the public with the intent to harm. As this virus began after the filing of the complaint by the plaintiff, the purposeful escalation of the virus in disregard for the constant warnings of all health officials was included by the plaintiff as part of additional indictments of tampering. 18 U.S.C. 1512, 18 U.S.C. 15. I repeated it twice. Why did I do that? And 18 U.S.C. 1519, but also, I should have read it to you guys, but I had to get to the store because it was already over 100 degrees today. But also 18 U.S.C. 1111, murder. That's why I read it to you in the beginning. Which in these above three cases constitute attempted murder in the first degree. Remember what the punishment was for that? Do I need to read it over again for you? I didn't read the punishments. Whoever is guilty of murder in the first degree shall be punished by death or by imprisonment for life. Death. That's how serious the violation of this law is. And what they're doing to me, as well as you, but specifically because of me and my lawsuit against them. And if you think you're going to attack me as responsible for what they're doing to you, you've missed the whole point. They are responsible for what they have done to you, your family, your loved ones, your neighbors, your church members. Don't lose sight of the guilty party, the cause. As the plaintiff is sure Your Honor is well aware, but also should have been aware to the defense counsel, as it has been clear that the defense counsel have been counseling their clients. So yes, the defense counsel is also guilty of murder in the first degree. Technically attempted murder, as it lists. You don't have to actually go through with the murder, but the attempt to go through with it is also good enough. And all who are co-conspirators. This is a RICO conspiracy. Everybody gets blamed for the same crimes in a RICO conspiracy case. Everybody. YouTube Mormon employees. It is now after 1 p.m., it's after 3 now, and the plaintiff has not gotten any response, nor has he seen any updates to the online docket. The plaintiff herein chooses and leaves Your Honor with one of the evidences intended to be used in a trial against the defendant, which was their submission to the state prosecutors to justify arresting the plaintiff in 2008 as a terrorist threat and calling the plaintiff's petition as a weapon of mass destruction to secure his indefinite detention without a trial to prove his innocence rather than for the prosecution to prove his guilt. As the defendant then went on to finally reward Dr. Cohn, who was also assigned upon the plaintiff's release in 2014, as it required another doctor to officially recommend the plaintiff's freedom in part. And then I put in the church's troublemaker file on me that shows the very first file for which they designated me a troublemaker. Project regarding Hebrew connections to Egypt PMW. Submitted on 1/02/98. Hard to see. So that's why the church turned me into their enemy. The church turned me into their enemy. I didn't turn the church into my enemy. Mormons are not getting that. They always say, oh, what did you do wrong? You're the apostate. You're not reading your scriptures, are you? You're not praying, are you? You're not going to church during the coronavirus, are you? You're not going to the temple and swearing oaths of loyalty to the church over the United States of America, are you? Again, I refer you to Helaman chapter 6, verses 22 to 25. And I submitted it in two ways. I put it as an actual picture attachment, as well as the picture on at the end of the thing. So that is it. Tomorrow I'll go over what today was supposed to mean. It may take a couple of videos or one really long one, just as a heads up.